Wait a minute. Who is everybody? I mean, even the unbeatable had to fight, scratch, and claw at the end after they had what is a comfortable lead against Florida, but that is a tough environment. What about the Pac-12's weekend? Not good. Brigham Young's trying to win like every conference in America with their non-conference schedule. And Baylor is now in position for a game that matters against Iowa State Saturday at home, along with West Virginia beats Virginia Tech. Oklahoma gets through their rivalry renewal with Nebraska. So there's a lot to get to. And we'll learn quite a bit about the Big 12 today, but also the national games, A&M at Arkansas, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, and even a group of 5 game of interest, Memphis and UT San Antonio, because of Memphis's win against Mississippi State. What were off the top of your head, on the chat room, on the text line, phone calls, 254-339-1122, top of your mind, 3 things that stand out from the college football weekend? A game, a moment, a situation, a topic, opinion. What are they? Let's go. We start. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak joins me, David Smoak. Jack McKenzie runs the mothership today.
I think the couple things that stand out to me is that the teams that we think are maybe the top 4 teams guaranteed to go to the playoff are more vulnerable than we thought at the beginning of the year. We knew that about Ohio State anyway. They still have problems on defense, even though they won big this week over Tulsa. Clemson's offense is abysmal, and Oklahoma let Nebraska hang around the whole game. And Alabama, while they jumped out on Florida, and this might be more of a credit to Florida than a knock on Alabama, I mean, Florida was in that game the whole time in the second half and was just a hair's breadth away from having a shot at it.
They were averaging 6 yards a carry on the ground. Alabama less than 4 yards a carry, and Florida was the one coming from behind and using the running game.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody but Alabama wins that game. I think anybody else in that situation in the swamp with those emotions probably craters. But, yeah, credit to Florida for the fight that they put up. Emory Jones, there's questions about, would it be Anthony Richardson or what was his status? But Emory Jones was the guy, and Florida played a hell of a game, put up a hell of a fight, and nothing to hang their heads about in the slightest. Of course, you'd rather have the win, but, it's Alabama. I mean, if that happens against just about anybody else, you're like, dang, but, you're still like, dang, but you also realize that's just what that team does, basically.
I'll also say this. If you're sitting around at the ACC offices today and going, what's that smell? It's you.
Yeah, well, who's worse right now? Who's having a worse start? Now, some of them have had better non-conference crossover games. Who right now is right now going? Other than Oregon winning, which was a huge win at Ohio State, the ACC and the Pac-12 are like, Now, the Big 12 doesn't have many good, what you would call big-time non-conference wins either. In fact, Texas lost to Arkansas in a game that really a lot of people didn't even know much to what to read. Oklahoma beat Nebraska, but as you said, it was a challenge. They were 3-touchdown favorites. And Kansas State beating Stanford is one of the best wins for right now. Iowa State lost to Iowa. Who's having a tougher start, though, the Pac-12 or the ACC to start this year?
I think it's probably it's tough. I mean,
I'm going to give you some stats.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, I'm trying to go through to my head. It's not like the ACC got wiped off the board. They did win some games this past weekend, but when you have Clemson struggling the way that they did and looking the way that they have so far, and that's your preeminent program, that's a little bit concerning. Whereas with the Pac-12, at least Oregon looks good. At least Oregon has that marquee win. Now, outside of Oregon, everything else seems to be a bit of a wild card. In the ACC, outside of Clemson, everything's a wild. I don't know who's in a worse spot right now. I'd say probably the ACC because Clemson looks a lot more beatable than Oregon does.
The Pac-12, this is from John Wilner, who we had on last week. 16 non-conference losses, 5 of them to the Mountain West. They had 4 losses. This was late in the morning on Saturday. 4 losses since 7 p.m. 3 losses to Brigham Young, 2 losses to FCS, 1 unbeaten team. And again, does Oregon beating Ohio State offset most of that? That gives you at least your bell cow if they continue to take care of business as well. SMU's Tanner Mordecai. What a start to the year for him. They win at a Hail Mary. We'll talk more about that and have the play and his reaction to it here momentarily. A couple weeks ago, he won the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. Paul Catalina, I want to start with this, Jack. This is what college football is about. This is when you know your fan base is locked in, when a woman tweets this.
Yes.
Young women in Tallahassee, please stop having sex with the FSU football players. When they approach you, act like you don't know who they are. When they tell you they play at FSU, ask them if they play basketball. When they say football, say ew and walk away. I bet we see a change.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Well, Smooch being her name is very, in line.
The major thing here is the athletic director and coach are not going to change anytime soon. At least not immediately. They need to hire a real athletic director. The one they have, and I'm not saying he's not a real athletic director. He got the job. He's a real athletic director. But he was brought in to help with the accounting of the athletic department. He has fixed that problem, but he had to hire a football coach in the middle. That was not his expertise. He had to fire and hire, not his expertise. So they need to have a legit athletic director who that was his mission in their mission in life. Since that's not going to happen soon, this is the best short-term plan. Don't do it, ladies.
Yes, don't do it, ladies, please. So that's one of the things.
Florida State is in just a massive mess right now. I mean, the dumpster's on fire, and they've tried extinguishers, and it's not working. I mean, it's one thing, to come out of the gates and play the way that they did against Notre Dame and give fans some hope, but then to turn around, lose to Jacksonville State in the manner that you did, okay, it's an awful loss, especially when it was entirely preventable, and you didn't call the right defense and get your guys straightened up before that last play against Jacksonville State. So, okay, you screwed up there. But you got your ass kicked by Wake Forest. There's no excuses for that one. So, close against Notre Dame, feels good, feels great. Okay, weird loss versus Jacksonville State that should never happen. But then to turn around and just get beat up by Wake Forest, that to me is red flag central. And it's just compounded and made worse by the fact that what happened with Willie Taggart happened. And, that brings then into a whole new crowd who are like, well, if this would have been Willie Taggart, he would have been out the door. So not only is it on the field bad, but then it creates friction off the field as well. And like Paul said, there's not a ton that they can really do about it. It's not like they can fire him right now. They don't have a lot of money to spend. So, yeah, FSU, man, bad start to the season.
Which is the biggest Big 12 game this weekend? Iowa State at Baylor, West Virginia at Oklahoma, West Virginia beating Virginia Tech to get off of that loss they had earlier, Texas Tech at Texas, Kansas State at Oklahoma State, and, SMU plays at TCU in a non-conference game. Which one's the biggest game?
That one to me is the biggest. I mean, West Virginia, Oklahoma is pretty close if West Virginia is getting better. But I think the SMU TCU game is pretty big one.
But neither one of them are ranked in the top 25.
Well,
that doesn't mean they shouldn't be. TCU is right on the edge.
If they win this weekend, they will be.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. You have the highest ranked team, Oklahoma, hosting West Virginia. If you extend the poll, West Virginia's 40th. Baylor's 42nd, Kansas State 33rd, Texas is 30th. So, but I think those are games that will kind of set the tone for who you might be over the next month of the season.
Well, to answer the question, I think you could make a case for every single one of those games. I think Iowa State Baylor is going to be really interesting, but I'd have to go K-State Oklahoma State just because somebody's taking their first loss, and they're both on the cusp of maybe being in the top 25. K-State loses Skylar Thompson and actually went out and looked really okay with Will Howard out there. So don't know if they can keep that up. We saw what happened last season as the play went along with Will Howard at the helm. It was not good. But, yeah, I guess since somebody will take their first loss, K-State, Oklahoma State, just because that'll create a little more separation.
All right, in the Big 12 plus, Brigham Young, Cincinnati, and Houston all took care of their business. Brigham Young has beaten another Pac-12 team.
Go Big 12, baby.
State. UCF had lost earlier on a Friday night. Now, let's get to some chat. And then, Paul, we got the lines lit up as well from Scotty B. Good afternoon. Okay, a lot of you saying that. Thank you. Travis, Iowa State hate week from Scotty. Oklahoma is not a top 5 team, in my opinion. I would put them no higher than 6th. Let's see here. Owen, how about them Mountaineers? Colin, happy Monday.
Yeah.
Great weekend. Told you I'd show up to take care of the Florida loss in lumps. S. Michael DeHart, Mountaineers taking on the Sooners this weekend. Let's see. How about BYU? Chase Sorensen.
You mean the team that's in first place in the Pac-12?
Yeah, they're winning the Pac-12, and there's a chance that you end up being unbeaten against the Big 12 if they beat Baylor. I don't know who else they played in the conference. All right, there's another one. Kansas State versus Oklahoma State will be a sneaky one. This is one of the best weekends since 2018 for football. Good close games and nail biters. The new Big 12 looking solid. Iowa State, Cincinnati, Brigham Young, all top 25 teams. Mike, with a $20 super chat. How about those BYU Cougars and the Dallas Cowboys? And we will have a segment with David Hellman on the Cowboys today at 5:30.
One more thing on the Big 12 weekend. Oklahoma State got super, super lucky, and Boise State got straight up hosed by an inadvertent whistle.
Sure did. Should not have been the call, but it was because of an inadvertent whistle. Boise State would have scored. Boise State would have probably held on and won, and instead they don't come up with the points, even though they got the ball back. So that was a terrible way to end that game. Now, granted, Boise State had an early lead and should have held on to it, but no, that should have been, the eventual winning score, and instead it was, them missing out on an opportunity, even though they did get the football. But Oklahoma State, man, Spencer Sanders is just not. He's just not going to change at this point. I know at some point in the next few weeks he'll probably have some great game where he runs for 85 yards and 2 scores and throws for 200 and 2 scores, and they beat Texas or somebody, But that's not going to change. He's been around long enough to know he's just who he is, and the thought of, well, he might get better at this point. No, he's who he is, and I think right now he's more of a liability for Oklahoma State than he is somebody that's going to put them over the top.
Well, somebody who's not a liability is Gary Bohannon for 3 games. Yes, teams that they should beat, but he was spectacular again against Kansas. Now everybody finds out from Baylor about who they are with Iowa State this week from the 4-0. Again, Oklahoma State gifted a win. Total screw job. Phantom interference call. Whistling cost Boise State the touchdown, an Oklahoma State fumble. And Oklahoma State fans, I don't know if you agree with that or not. 859, the regression on Clemson. Miami realizing they're trash. And Cincinnati spotting Indiana 14 points and still winning.
Yeah, they didn't look good
by 14 on the road.
They didn't look good early at all, and fortunately for the Bearcats, they came back and won that game. But yeah, that was
so many explosive playmakers.
That was dicey early.
Number 2 on that list is pretty funny. Is Miami realizing they're trash, as if that there was a moment during the Michigan State game where they're like, "Hey, are we not good?"
Yeah.
Do you think all those NIL people are really happy with that De'Aaron King payment they gave?
De'Aaron King and Mackenzie Milton both. I mean, Mackenzie Milton's got a story of triumph over almost losing his career, but even still, if I am, and I'm glad for those guys.
Oh, yeah.
But if I am a marketing person and my job is to market and to find people that, drink my kombucha, eat this yogurt, drive this car, these sneakers are bitching, then I want someone who is winning.
Yeah, it's just the other side of the NIL coin. I was reading an article before the season started about how De'Aaron King was the king of this NIL stuff already, and had already inked all these deals and was making moves, and I was happy for him. I, follow him because he's from Texas. He's from Manville, so I've been following him with the Earl Campbell Award every time he's played since he's started playing college football, and always want him to do well. But, yeah, I couldn't help but think after reading that article, I wonder what kind of season he's going to have, and so far it's not very good. So I don't know if those businesses feel like their investment was, maybe a miss, or if they're getting something in return that we're not aware of, like customers, that it still doesn't matter at all. But that is the catch-22 of that NIL is, on paper, yeah, superstar. On the field, maybe not what you invested in, and so far that's the case with Miami.
Our lineup, Ricky Thompson, who does sideline for Baylor Radio, joins us